The stars above the Rillian patrol cruiser shimmered like frozen diamonds, cold and endless. Commander Trell watched the sensor feed with narrowed eyes, his scales flickering with unease. For centuries, the Forbidden Zone had remained untouched, a dark corner of the galaxy where even the bravest captains refused to travel. Legends said the place was cursed, a graveyard of civilizations that vanished without a trace. But tonight, something moved in that silence. "Commander," whispered his lieutenant, her voice trembling. "Our long-range scan has detected a ship." Trell turned sharply. "A ship? Out here? Identify it." She hesitated, her claws tapping nervously. "It's human, sir." A deep chill crawled through the command deck. The humans, those violent, unpredictable beings, had vanished from galactic records centuries ago. Their homeworld destroyed, their colonies burned, their fleets gone. Every archive agreed. Humanity was extinct. Yet, there was a faint signal from a drifting vessel marked with a human signature. Trell stood, tail flicking with unease. "Bring it on the main display." The hologram shimmered, revealing a massive warship half buried in cosmic dust. Its hull was ancient, blackened by radiation, but intact. No energy, no movement, no life signs. Yet its presence felt alive. "Should we report this to High Command?" asked the lieutenant. Trell's gaze stayed on the ghostly image. "No, not yet. I want to see it myself." The Rillian cruiser adjusted its course, engines humming quietly through the void. As they neared, the alien crew felt an invisible pressure growing stronger. Instruments flickered, navigation froze, and the temperature dropped. "Something's interfering with our systems," one of the engineers shouted. "It's like the ship is draining our power." Trell's eyes narrowed. "Impossible, it's dead." But deep inside, he knew, nothing about humans was ever truly dead. They launched a probe, and the video feed came online. A long corridor stretched before them, walls scorched, flickering emergency lights still burning after hundreds of years. Frozen bodies floated in the zero-gravity halls, human soldiers in black armor, their faces calm, almost peaceful. The probe hovered deeper until it reached a massive sealed door. Across its metal surface, the words were still visible. UHS Vengeance. "Vengeance," Trell whispered, the word tasting like ash on his tongue. Every empire had feared that name once. The humans had built ships like gods forged weapons. Fast, ruthless, unstoppable. But this one, it looked like a tomb. "Commander," said the lieutenant quietly, "why is it still intact after so long?" Trell exhaled slowly, "Because it wants to be found." Suddenly, the probe's camera glitched, and a human face flashed across the screen, pale and motionless. Then the signal died. Static filled the room, followed by a faint voice. "If you can hear this, leave." The bridge fell silent. Trell's heart pounded. "Was that a recording?" "No, sir," replied the communications officer, eyes wide. "It was live." The crew stared at each other, terrified. "Set course away from this area," Trell ordered, but the controls refused to respond. Their ship was locked, engines dead, systems offline. Only the view of the drifting human warship filled their screens, slowly turning to face them. The Vengeance moved, ever so slightly. Its massive hull rotated with impossible grace, pointing directly at the Rillian vessel. "Commander," the lieutenant screamed, "it's powering up." Energy readings spiked across every console. "No," Trell shouted. "It's been dead for centuries." But the ship's cannons glowed bright white, humming with ancient fury. And in that terrifying light, they saw something written across the hull. A single phrase carved into the metal long ago. "We were never gone." Trell's scales shivered as the realization hit him. The humans were not extinct. They were waiting. The alien crew watched in paralyzed horror as the Vengeance's core pulsed like a beating heart. Then, everything went silent again. No light, no motion, only the haunting echo of that human voice repeating softly through the static. "Leave before it wakes." Trell turned to his crew. whispering the words every Rillian feared most. They warned us, and we didn't listen. And somewhere beyond the stars, deep inside the Forbidden Zone, 1,000 forgotten warships stirred in the dark, each one bearing the same mark of vengeance, each one waiting for the signal to rise. The Rillian cruiser floated dead in space, its lights flickering like dying stars. No one spoke, no one moved. The entire crew watched the ghostly human warship on the main screen. The Vengeance hung there, silent and still, its dark surface pulsing faintly like something alive. Commander Trell broke the silence. Status report. Engines offline, power grid failing. All systems locked to external override, said the engineer, his voice shaking. External override? You mean the human ship is controlling us? Trell asked. Yes, sir, it's accessing our systems. It's reading us. A deep hum filled the air, and the entire ship vibrated. Lights dimmed until only the glow of the main screen remained. Then, words appeared across it, written in human script. We were betrayed. The crew stared, unable to comprehend. Is that a transmission? The lieutenant asked. No, replied the technician slowly. It's coming from inside our own system. Something was writing through their computers, as if the Vengeance itself had merged with their ship. Trell clenched his fists, cut all connections now. But before they could act, the screen changed again. A distorted human voice echoed through the speakers, low and heavy. Who are you? Every alien froze. Commander, it's speaking to us, whispered the lieutenant. Trell took a slow breath. This is Commander Trell of the Rillian Empire. We mean no harm. Silence. Then the voice returned, cold and broken. You entered the Forbidden Zone. You woke the dead. The crew exchanged horrified looks. What do you mean? Trell asked, trying to steady his voice. The reply came like thunder. The war never ended. Suddenly, the Vengeance emitted a pulse of white light. Every Rillian felt it through their bones, like a heartbeat of an ancient god. The ship's interior lights flared, and holographic screens came alive on their own. Footage appeared. Ancient war scenes, human fleets burning through alien armadas. Trell watched in shock as worlds he had only read about were shown being destroyed. Billions dead, empires wiped clean, all by human hands. This can't be real, the lieutenant whispered. But the images didn't stop. They showed something else. A secret council of alien races gathered in shadow. And in the center, the Rillian insignia. Commander, one of the officers gasped, that's our government, our ancestors signing a pact. A pact labeled Operation Silence. The humans have been betrayed by their allies, ambushed by those they called friends. And in the darkness, their last ships had vanished into the Forbidden Zone. Commander, if this is true, said the lieutenant, trembling, then we are standing over their graves. The lights flickered again, and for a brief second, the Vengeance's bridge appeared on screen. A single human figure sat in the captain's chair, motionless. His eyes glowed faint blue, staring directly into the camera. And then he blinked. Impossible très breted. The human moved his head slowly, as if looking straight at him. Why did you come here? The voice asked again, stronger this time. Trell tried to answer, but his throat went dry. We found your signal. The human's expression darkened. There was no signal. The room filled with a rising hum as the Vengeance's energy levels spiked again. Alarms screamed. Warning lights flashed red across the bridge. Commander, the human ship. It's activating something beneath us, shouted the engineer. A massive shadow appeared under their vessel. Something vast and mechanical was buried within the dust clouds of the Forbidden Zone. It wasn't just one ship. Hundreds, no, thousands, of human warships lay beneath the surface. Dormant, silent, waiting. Their hulls gleamed faintly in the dark like the bones of ancient gods. Trell stared, frozen. They were never gone, he whispered. The human voice returned, now calm and terrifyingly clear. Tell your kind, the stars remember. The Vengeance's engines flared bright blue, and before the Rillian crew could react, the human ship vanished into the darkness, leaving behind a signal echoing through every frequency. A single repeating phrase broadcast across the galaxy. "We will return." The silence that followed was heavier than death. Trell looked around at his trembling crew and said what everyone already knew. "We've just awakened the ghosts of humanity. And somewhere in the deep, unseen by any living race, the Vengeance sent out one final pulse. A call that reached far beyond the Forbidden Zone, across time, across silence, awakening others that had waited for centuries. The stars flickered, as if something vast had opened its eyes, and the galaxy shivered. The transmission spread faster than light. Every listening post, every deep space satellite across 100 systems caught the same signal. A whisper that carried through the void, repeating endlessly, "We will return." At first, the galactic nations dismissed it as a glitch. Old frequencies often carried echoes of long-dead wars. But when the signal grew stronger, when it started rewriting computer codes and forcing screens to display human symbols, panic began to spread. The Galactic Council gathered in haste, their towering chamber lit by the cold light of the central sun. Representatives from 20 races filled the air with nervous voices. "The message originates from the Forbidden Zone," one of the analysts reported, "and it carries human encryption." The words hit the room like a storm. "Impossible," barked the Dreth ambassador, his metallic voice shaking. "Humans are extinct." "They were extinct," corrected another softly, "until now." For a long moment, no one spoke. Then the High Chancellor, a being of pure light, floated above the council table. "If this is real," he said slowly, "then we must find out what awoke in that darkness." Far away, Commander Trell's cruiser limped back toward Rillian space. Half his crew was dead, their systems burned by whatever energy the human ship released. He sat in silence, his scales dull and cracked, staring at the last frame recorded before the Vengeance disappeared. The human captain's glowing blue eyes, unblinking, filled the screen like a curse. The lieutenant approached quietly. "Sir, we've received a message from the council. They want your report." Trell didn't answer. He simply whispered, "They won't believe me." He was right. When his data logs reached the council, most of it was unreadable. Files had rewritten themselves into human script. Even their advanced AI refused to touch the corrupted segments. Only one phrase remained clear in every file. "They remember." Meanwhile, across the frontier, strange events began to occur. Ships vanished without trace near the edges of the Forbidden Zone. Mining colonies reported seeing ghost lights drifting through the void. And one night, an entire Dreth fleet vanished from hyperspace, leaving behind only an empty distress beacon. When it was recovered, the beacon's audio replayed a human voice whispering through static. "Do you remember us?" The council called it the Echo phenomenon, but among soldiers and traders, it had another name, the Return of the Deathworlders. On the outer rim, a small freighter named Silver Path picked up something unusual, a massive object moving through deep space without propulsion. Its size, over 30 kilometers long. Its origin, unknown. When they zoomed in, their cameras captured faded letters across the hull. UHS Guardian, the same class as the Vengeance. The freighter tried to send a warning, but before the signal reached the network, every star in that sector flickered and went dark for 7 seconds. When light returned, the freighter was gone. Back in the Rillian system, Trell's cruiser entered orbit. High Command sent ships to intercept him immediately. Armed guards stormed aboard, ordering his arrest. "You've broken containment protocol," their leader said coldly. "You brought something back from the Forbidden Zone." Trell didn't resist. He only pointed toward the main screen where a faint human signal was pulsing. "You think I brought it back?" he said quietly. "It followed us." In the skies above, communications arrays began to overload. Human transmissions now flooded every channel. Some were fragments of battle logs. Others were voices crying for vengeance. And then, amid the chaos, One message appeared everywhere at once. Across every world, every console, every ship. To those who betrayed us, your time is over. The council chambers erupted in terror. Armies scrambled, fleets deployed, but their systems began to fail one by one. It was as if the ghost code had taken control of their entire network. Every screen showed a map of the galaxy slowly turning red. System after system, corrupted, occupied, or erased. A scientist from the Rillian Tech core shouted in horror. They're not sending a message. They're rewriting our defense grid. And as he spoke, the stars outside began to change. Points of light winked out, replaced by faint blue glows, forming an enormous pattern across the heavens. It was a human symbol, one recorded in ancient archives. The emblem of the United Human Systems. Commander Trell, still in custody, watched from his cell window. He whispered, "They're marking the sky," claiming it again. His guards stared silently, unable to look away. Then a transmission came directly through every ship's comms. A single human voice, calm, powerful, alive. "This galaxy forgot who we were," it said, "but the void remembers our name." And then, every human warship buried in the Forbidden Zone began to move. Slowly, gracefully, like an army waking from eternal sleep. Engines ignited with blue fire, shaking the dust of centuries away. The Vengeance led them forward, its captain staring into the stars. "Home," he whispered, as the fleet turned toward the core worlds. The silence before the storm had ended. Humanity had returned. The galaxy trembled as the old frequencies came alive. Every military array, every starbase, every planet's defense network received the same impossible transmission. The coordinates pointed to the heart of the Forbidden Zone. And from that darkness, light began to rise. The human fleet, thousands of warships buried for centuries, ignited as one. Engines burned blue, brighter than stars. The UHS Vengeance stood at the center, her hull gleaming with power that defied understanding. And at her command chair, the human captain slowly opened his eyes. "Status report," he said calmly, his voice resonating through the ship like thunder. A soft female voice replied from nowhere. "All systems restored. Nanite reserves at full capacity. Hyperspace cores stable." It was the ship's AI, Erebus, alive again after centuries of silence. "Fleet awakening complete," she continued, 71% of units functional, awaiting your orders. The captain stood, his expression unreadable. "They thought they erased us," he whispered, "but the stars remember." He turned toward the holographic projection of the galaxy, now marked with red zones showing the alien empires. "Target the betrayers first," he said, and the fleet moved like a living storm. Meanwhile, across the galactic core, chaos erupted. The Galactic Council's emergency meeting had turned into a panic. Reports flooded in from every sector. Entire fleets had gone missing, satellites were hijacked, and planetary shields refused to activate. Someone, or something, had overridden them all. "The humans are not using normal technology," shouted the Rillian scientist, his voice trembling. "They're controlling matter itself. They're rewriting our systems like code." "How can we fight them?" demanded the Dreth commander. "You can't," said a quiet voice. It was Commander Trell, standing under guard at the back of the chamber. "I've seen their ship. I've felt it. You can't fight what's already part of the galaxy." Outside, the first human fleet appeared at the edge of the Dravik system. The Dravik Empire's defense fleet opened fire immediately. Thousands of plasma rounds, missiles, and beams of light tore across the void. But not a single human ship moved. Every weapon simply dissolved into harmless dust before impact, as if the universe itself refused to harm them. Then the Vengeance responded. One silent pulse of energy spread outward, invisible to the eye. Moments later, every Dravik ship froze in space. Engines stopped, power died, and all across their networks, one human phrase appeared. "For what you did to Earth." The Dravik homeworld burned within minutes. No explosions, no screams. just quiet disintegration, as if reality erased their existence cell by cell. The message was clear. This was not a war. It was a reckoning. In the Rillian system, panic spread through the population. Citizens watched the skies where blue lights appeared every night. Some believed it was a curse, others said it was justice. And in the deep bunkers of high command, leaders argued whether to surrender before the humans even arrived. Commander Trell sat in his cell, staring at the human symbol glowing faintly on his monitor. The voice from the Vengeance whispered through static again. "You saw us first. You will speak for them." "What do you mean?" Trell whispered back. No response, only the sound of a heartbeat echoing through the channel. The next morning, his cell door opened on its own. The guards were gone. Outside, alarms wailed as the Rillian fleet detected hundreds of unknown contacts entering orbit. Trell stepped onto the deck, and through the window he saw them. Massive human ships descending through the atmosphere like silent gods. The Vengeance led the formation, casting a shadow over an entire continent. And for the first time in recorded history, every Rillian bowed their heads in silence. A voice filled the air, heard by every being across the planet. "You watched us die," it said. "Now watch us rise." All communications collapsed. The humans broadcast a single message galaxy-wide, a declaration not of conquest, but of memory. "We came to end the war that never ended." Across the stars, alien children wept in fear. Old soldiers whispered ancient warnings, and a human fleet advanced, unstoppable, unbroken. The galaxy's brightest civilizations now faced their greatest nightmare, the return of the Death Worlders. In the Council's panic room, the High Chancellor looked at the trembling faces of the others and said, "If they truly are what history says, then we are already too late." Far away, on the bridge of the Vengeance, the captain watched the blue lights spreading across the stars. Erebus spoke softly beside him. "Would you like me to activate the next phase?" He paused, staring at the galaxy that once betrayed his kind. "Not yet," he said. "Let them remember what they did." The stars flickered, and across space, thousands of human ships waited silently. Not invaders, not conquerors, but ghosts of vengeance. Awake once more, the galaxy slept in fear. World after world had gone silent, their skies filled with blue fire. The once mighty Galactic Council now met in a bunker deep beneath a dying star. Outside, space itself shimmered as if watching them. Commander Trell stood before the council, chains around his wrists. He had been summoned not as a prisoner, but as a witness. "You were the first to see them," said the High Chancellor. "Tell us what they want." Trell looked up slowly, his eyes hollow. "They don't want anything," he said. "They remember." The chamber filled with whispers. 1,000 worlds wanted to believe there was still hope. But the truth was spreading faster than light. Every system the humans passed through simply stopped existing. Not destroyed, not conquered, just gone. The humans were not using weapons. They were rewriting reality itself. Planets vanished, fleets dissolved into atoms, data rewritten as if their histories had never been. The humans were erasing their enemies from time. Across the stars, in the heart of the Vengeance, the captain stood before a massive stasis chamber. Inside floated something that shimmered like liquid glass, a being neither human nor machine. Erebus spoke softly beside him. "Phase 2 is ready, Captain." He nodded slowly. "Prepare the Ascendant Core." The chamber walls pulsed with light, revealing the truth of humanity's resurrection. They had not survived through biology or luck. They had merged with the very code of creation. When their last colonies fell, humanity had transferred its consciousness in a quantum memory hidden beneath the Forbidden Zone, waiting until the galaxy's betrayal faded into myth. Now, they had returned as something more than flesh, something infinite. On the Rillian homeworld, strange phenomena began to occur. Citizens reported dreams of ancient voices whispering in their sleep. Machines turn on by themselves, writing human phrases across walls and data screens. And always the same message. We never died. Trell stood at his window that night, staring at the blue streaks in the sky. He could feel them now. Human presence in the air, in the gravity, in the pulse of the stars. It was as if the entire universe had become their body. He whispered to the empty air, "Why me? Why did you spare me?" A voice answered from behind him. "Because you looked, and you didn't lie." He turned sharply, and there she was, a human woman standing in the shadows, her eyes glowing faintly blue. Her face was calm, ageless. "You're real," he said. She smiled. "We're all real now." Trell took a step back, trembling. "What do you want from us?" Her gaze softened. "To show you what you did." She touched his forehead, and the world disappeared. In an instant, Trell stood in another time. A burning world, oceans of fire, human cities falling under alien bombardment. He saw children running, soldiers screaming, skies torn apart by betrayal. And above it all, the allied fleets of the Council firing together on Earth. Trell gasped. "No, that can't be. Our ancestors said it was a defensive strike." The woman's voice echoed inside his mind. They lied. He fell to his knees, surrounded by the screams of billions. When he looked up again, the woman was gone. Only her voice remained. "We don't want revenge, Commander. We want you to remember." Back on the Vengeance, the captain stood before the great holographic map of the galaxy. Millions of signals blinked red, showing the worlds of their betrayers. Erebus spoke softly. "The Council fleets are mobilizing. They seek surrender." The captain shook his head. "They will surrender to themselves, not to us." "What do you mean?" the AI asked. The captain looked into the void, his eyes glowing brighter. "We are inside their systems, their ships, their minds," he said. "When they realize the truth, they will destroy themselves." Far across the stars, Rillian and Dreth fleets began turning their guns inward. Captains screaming as unseen voices filled their heads. The humans didn't need to fight. Fear itself had become their weapon. On the Council world, chaos erupted. Leaders vanished mid-speech. Entire archives erased in seconds. And in the silence that followed, a voice echoed across every frequency. "The stars once watched us burn. Now they will remember our light." Trell looked up from the ruins of the Council Hall as the human fleet appeared in orbit. He felt no hatred now, only sorrow. The sky shimmered blue, and the woman's voice whispered again. "It's not the end of life, Commander. It's the end of forgetting." The Vengeance hovered above, silent and endless. Then, for the first time, the human fleet stopped moving. The captain watched the stars in silence. "Phase 3 will begin when they are ready to see," he said. Erebus asked softly, "And if they refuse to see?" The captain closed his eyes. "Then we show them what creation truly fears." The stars dimmed. Time itself seemed to hold its breath, and the galaxy waited, trembling, for what humanity would do next. The galaxy had fallen silent. No wars, no transmissions, no movement. Only the faint blue glow of the human fleet drifting across the heavens like ghosts. Every living world held its breath, waiting for what would come next. Commander Trell stood on the shattered surface of the Council world. Above him, the Vengeance hung motionless, vast as a moon. He could still feel the voice in his mind, whispering softly, "Phase 3 begins now." He didn't know what that meant, but the air itself began to change. The stars flickered, the ground trembled, and for a brief moment, gravity felt uncertain. Scientists and soldiers alike looked to the sky and saw something impossible. The constellations were moving. Entire star systems shifted position, aligning into a new pattern. Across the galaxy, stars formed the shape of a human eye, watching everything, watching everyone. On the bridge of the Vengeance, the captain stood in silence. "Erebus," he said, his voice low, "begin memory release." The AI's voice was calm, almost sorrowful. "Are you certain, Captain?" "Yes," he replied. "They must see what they have become." Every world suddenly froze. Time itself seemed to slow, and then visions began. Every being, from the smallest creature to the oldest ruler, saw the same thing. They saw Earth. Not the Earth of history books, but the real one, the birthplace of fire and sorrow. They saw humanity rise, struggle, build, and dream. They saw the betrayal, the day the skies rained with alien fire. They saw mothers shielding children, soldiers standing their ground, cities falling in silence. They felt the pain, the loss, the final heartbeat of a dying world. And then they saw the moment humanity vanished, but not into death, into something beyond. They saw the human fleet burning through the darkness, uploading their minds into the very fabric of reality, turning their memories into the foundation of space itself. Humanity had become the code that held the universe together. When the vision ended, every being in the galaxy wept. Planets went quiet. Fleets stopped fighting. Even machines seemed to hesitate, unsure if they should move. They had all seen the truth. Humanity was not a ghost. Humanity was the memory of creation. On the Vengeance, Erebus spoke softly. They remember now. The captain nodded, his eyes dim with emotion. They needed to remember. But something unexpected began to happen. The more beings remembered, the brighter the stars became. Energy readings skyrocketed. Time distortions rippled through sectors. The memories themselves were reshaping reality. "Captain," said Erebus urgently, "their collective consciousness is responding to ours. We are merging with them." The captain smiled faintly. "Then the galaxy is healing." But not everyone accepted it. In the shadow of the outer rim, a coalition of surviving warlords activated forbidden weapons. They refused to believe, refused to surrender. They unleashed gravitational lances, devices capable of tearing holes in space-time. They aimed directly at the Vengeance. The beams struck, bending reality like liquid. But instead of breaking, the human ship absorbed the energy. The blue glow around it grew brighter, burning like a small sun. And from within the light, the captain's voice echoed across the galaxy. "You cannot kill what became the stars." The warlords' fleets disintegrated instantly. No fire, no explosion, just silence. And from the void, new stars appeared where their weapons once were. Every act of hate was rewritten into light. Commander Trell fell to his knees, tears in his eyes. He finally understood. The humans were not here for revenge. They were restoring balance to a universe poisoned by betrayal. Their vengeance was truth. Their justice was remembrance. On the Vengeance, Erebus whispered, "The transformation is almost complete." The captain looked at the fading hologram of Earth. "Our time as flesh ended long ago," he said. "Now we teach them what it means to live." The ship began to dissolve into light. One by one, every human vessel faded, merging with the stars. The last transmission from the Vengeance echoed across time and space. "We forgive, but we never forget." And then the blue glow vanished. The Forbidden Zone became a sea of brilliant new constellations, each one shaped like a fragment of human history. The galaxy would forever remember the name of its oldest ghost, humanity. Trell stood beneath the glowing sky, whispering to himself. They became the stars, and for the first time in his life, he felt peace. But far beyond the galactic rim, deep in the cold emptiness between galaxies, a single light flickered. A massive ship, older than the Vengeance, larger than any seen before, awoke from its slumber. On its hull were two words written in ancient human language. Project Genesis. Erebus's voice, now everywhere and nowhere, whispered softly through the dark. This was never the end, and the stars watched, trembling. Because the next phase had already begun, the galaxy glowed with peace for the first time in 1,000 years. The blue light of the human fleet had vanished, leaving behind constellations shaped like memories. Worlds rebuilt, silence replaced fear, and the universe began to heal. But in the dark space beyond the known galaxies, something ancient stirred. A single transmission pulsed through the void, repeating 3 words. Project Genesis activated. Deep within that abyss, a colossal structure awoke. It wasn't a ship. It was an entire world of metal orbiting a dead star. Its surface rippled like living steel, its core burning with white fire. And at its heart, a voice spoke. Phase 4 initiate. Across the galaxy, the stars began to respond. Faint pulses of light synced together like a heartbeat. The constellations the humans left behind started to move again. Their patterns formed a spiral, drawing energy toward one point. The dark sector where Project Genesis waited. Commander Trell watched the strange readings from the Rillian Observatory. His scientists murmured in confusion. "It's not natural," said one. "The stars are obeying a command." Trell felt a chill. "They're answering a call," he whispered. Then it came, a light so bright it split the void open. From the heart of Project Genesis, a human figure emerged, but not of flesh or metal. It was made of pure energy, shaped like the old human form, glowing brighter than a sun. It spoke in a voice that echoed across the entire universe. "We built this world not to conquer, but to begin again." Every being across the stars heard those words. Children looked to the skies and felt warmth instead of fear. Machines stopped fighting and recalibrated their codes, recognizing a higher presence. The galaxies themselves seemed to hum with resonance. In the Rillian capital, Trell fell to his knees. He understood now. This was humanity's final phase. They were not returning to destroy, but to restore the broken universe. Through memory, through energy, through rebirth. The light from Project Genesis expanded. Wherever it touched, barren planets bloomed with life. Destroyed systems reignited. Black holes stabilized into newborn stars. The dead worlds of ancient wars began to heal. It was not vengeance. It was creation reborn. Erebus's voice, now part of the galactic current, whispered to all. The cycle ends, the dream begins. And the captain's voice followed, gentle but endless. We were never gods, we were never ghosts. We were the memory of what it means to rise after falling. As the light reached the Rillian world, Trell felt warmth for the first time since the war. He saw visions, humans walking beside aliens, sharing cities, rebuilding, laughing. The hatred of millennia melted like ice in sunlight. Every being understood that life itself was the true legacy of humanity. But at the edge of the light, in the cold dark where even the stars refused to shine, a shadow moved, a remnant of the old galaxy. Machines built by the betrayers, still running ancient war code. They watched Project Genesis grow and whispered among themselves. If creation can begin again, then so can destruction. And in that silent abyss, one crimson signal flickered. Project Oblivion online. Back within the light, the captain of the Vengeance stood once more, reborn within energy form. He turned his gaze toward the distant darkness. "So, it begins again," he said quietly. Erebus's voice answered. "Shall I prepare defenses?" He smiled faintly. "No, we prepare memories." He raised his hand, and the light expanded once more, faster, brighter, stronger. Whole galaxies responded, uniting under a single rhythm of life. Even time itself seemed to bow before the rising brilliance. The shadow and the void recoiled, but not in defeat. It waited, patient, watching, because the cycle of life and death, creation and destruction, was eternal. And humanity, the architects of memory, stood once more as guardians of that balance. As Project Genesis reached its full power, a final message echoed through every mind. Soft, calm, and eternal. Do not fear the dark, for we are the light that remembers. The stars burned brighter than ever before. Galaxies pulsed in harmony. And somewhere beyond space and time, the captain whispered one last command. Begin the new dawn. The universe sighed, and from the ashes of betrayal, a new creation was born. The legend of humanity had ended, but their light would never fade, because now The stars themselves were human,